have for us in critical thinking?
Well, I want to talk about risk versus uncertainty. So risk is probability based. It has odds. You can assess numbers with it. There are numbers associated with it, and you can use it in calculations. Uncertainty, on the other hand, probabilities are not known. We don't know what the possible chances of success or failure would be. So it's no way you can't do calculations, you can't do any kind of numbers with it, and so it's completely unknown. That's the difference between risk and uncertainty.
Well, give us some examples.
Give us some examples. Okay, so just to make that more clear, I often use roulette as an example because I think most people can understand the numbers involved with roulette. Pretty simple game. So a roulette table has 1 to 36 numbers plus 0 and double 0 for a total of 38 numbers. And when they put a little placard on in Las Vegas or wherever casino you're in, they put a little placard out there and they tell you what the odds are or the reward is for playing the game. And typically it's
35 to 1.
35 to 1. So the reward, they put a little placard there that says 35 to 1, and that's what you win if your number comes up. But there are 38 numbers, right?
That's
There's
right.
38 numbers, but they only pay you 35 to 1. So what everybody thinks is the odds are 35 to 1. The odds aren't 35 to 1. The odds, there's 38 numbers. So the odds are 37 that you'll lose to 1 you'll win. The odds are 37 to 1. That's the risk. The reward they're paying you is 35 to 1. Right? So the risk is 37 to 1. The odds are 35 to 1. So on average, you're going to lose.
Yeah, the house always wins.
That's right. So if you do all the calculation numbers, the odds are negative 5.26%. That's your expected return. An expected return is written like this, expected return. So expected return is on average, you'll lose 5.26% of your money. So it's a bad bet, right?
So don't bet.
But we all know all the casino bet games are bad bets. The odds are against you. That's how they build those big casinos, is because people are going to lose over time.
Right.
We know that. So when you think about risk and reward, and you think about risk versus uncertainty, okay? So we know what the odds are here. We know that it's a negative bet. It's a bad expected return. We expect to lose 5.26% of our money.
But have fun in the process.
Yeah, well, it's entertainment. Okay, that's why they allow it to be legal. So, but we know the odds. So now let's change the odds. Instead of 35 to 1, let's find a table that pays 40 to 1. Right?
Okay.
Okay, so if the odds are now 40 to 1, and there's 38 numbers out here, is this a positive or negative return?
It's positive.
It's positive. Now I want to play.
Now
right?
I'm betting.
Now I'm betting. Now I want to play, right? Because the expected return is positive. You're paying me more than the risk. But that's because I know what the risk is. I know how many numbers are out here. So let me give you an example of uncertainty. I don't know how many numbers are on the table. So that's uncertainty, right? See the difference between risk and uncertainty?
Okay.
Risk I can calculate. It's 37 to 1, it's 40 to 1, there's numbers. If they don't tell you how many numbers are on the table, you can't bet.
1,000,000 to 1.
Who knows how many numbers are there? Say it's 35 to 1, that's the reward. What's the risk? Well, I don't know. How many numbers are on the table? I don't know. Is the wheel fair? Does the wheel have the same numbers on it that are on the table? Is the wheel balanced wrong? We think it's an even game because the numbers come up evenly. Well, maybe it isn't. Maybe the wheel's balanced wrong. So you can't tell. You can't tell in uncertainty what the odds are. If you can calculate the odds, I can tell you roulette at 35 to 1 with 38 numbers is a bad bet. At 40 to 1 with 38 numbers, it's a good bet. But if you don't tell me how many numbers there are, I can't bet at all. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So uncertainty, when you talk about uncertainty in financial matters or in economics in general, what we're talking about is we can't assess the probabilities. With risk, we can assess the probabilities and decide whether we want to bet or not.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So when you think about situations that you're in, I keep telling you to assess the risk. Always think about risk first. Think about the risk, and you have to assess the probabilities. Now, can you know them as specifically as you know how many numbers are on this table? Of course not, right? You're never going to know that when you're talking about things that are out in the real world, because all kinds of things can happen. 9/11 can happen, a hurricane can happen, earthquake can happen. You never really know what the odds are specifically. But you can get a pretty good guess. You can think about what's the probability of this, am I willing to take that risk or not? But you got to think about the risk more than you worry about the rewards. They never put the risk on a table in Vegas. Never shows up. It always says 35 to 1. You think, oh, 35 to 1. If I put down $1, I can make 35. Yes, but on average, your expected return is negative 5.26. That's what you're going to walk away with on average, is you're losing 5% of your money. So,
Can you transfer this to gold?
well, that's a good question. So we were talking about gold last couple of weeks. So think about gold in the same way. What is the risk with gold? Well, I can't price gold. I have no idea what the value is. It's simply a speculative bet on what people in the future will think it's worth. I can't calculate it. I can't do anything. Convert that to a
Because
bond.
it's not being eaten.
Well, convert that
Or-
to a bond. So if
Okay.
you think of a bond, it pays 5% interest and you get $1,000 back at the end, right? So for 10 years it pays, well, right now it pays 2.5% interest or less, but I know how much money is coming in every year. I know how much money I'm going to get back. I can calculate the price. Then I can think about whether I think interest rates are going to go up or down, or whether I need the money. There's things I can calculate into it to find out some sort of idea on the risk and the expected value of that bond. I have no idea how to do that in gold. It's a shiny pet rock. 2 years from now, it could be out of gold and it could be $300 again, and I have no way to calculate that. It's completely uncertain. It's like playing roulette and covering both sides of the table and saying, I'm going to bet on G. Well, how many other people are betting, and what's the payoff going to be? I don't know. I'm not telling you. And you go, oh, well, why?
But
would
it could be the alternative currency.
It could be, but how do you assess the odds? How do you put a
Yep.
probability on that? So that's the issue of risk versus uncertainty. It's a big issue in finance and economics, and it's a big issue in your life too.
And what's your takeaway?
So my takeaway is, if you assess the risk and the expected reward is worth the risk, you should consider taking that risk. But if you're uncertain about the risk and the reward, and actually the only logical conclusion there is to avoid it altogether.